Today on Rambling About Cars, we're trucking along. We've got a new Ranger hybrid. We have the return of the hardbody. We also have some SUV news with Volkswagen, a very expensive Mini, and very inexpensive cars for touring the fall colors. So let's roll. It's podcast time. I am Christopher Smith. Across the way, Mr. Chris Bruce. There you are. We're up on the screen live. Here we go. It's one of those days, man.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Yeah, I was listening to you, but I was looking at another tab to get some stuff ready, and I realized I didn't turn off the overlay.
I didn't realize that until I kind of looked. I was just kind of in my mode, just doing the whole little intro thing. But hey, it's Wednesday. It's a little quieter this week. Of course, we're coming off of two major auto shows, but there's still a lot going on. Hey, you know what? Banter for a minute or two. What you been doing here the last week when we're not covering auto shows?
Not much car stuff, if I'm totally honest. More like video game stuff. I've been kind of in video game world recently. Oh, and I started on a new model as well.
Okay.
So more hobby stuff than car stuff this week for me, which is fine. You know, you got to balance everything out.
What did I do? That's bad when you can't remember what you did a couple days ago, folks.
It is. Yeah, it's not great.
I kind of just took it easy this weekend. I've been playing Starfield on Xbox. It's sort of like Fallout, but in space, and I was always a Fallout fan, so I got kind of into that. A little preview for all the ramblers out there. We are going to have some very interesting auto-related video game news that will be coming up here early next month. I can't talk any more about that. I know Bruce doesn't even know because
Dude, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I just learned this today, so it'll be pretty neat that we'll be talking about here in early October.
Okay. I literally don't know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask you: is this console video game or PC video game stuff, or both?
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll just leave her there at that. Maybe this weekend I'll try to do a little bit of modeling or a little bit of work on the show. I just kind of took it easy last weekend. After the craziness that was the Detroit Auto Show, which really wasn't that crazy on the media side. It's being well attended from what I understand by the public, that's good.
Really that's a fantastic. Yeah. But in terms of major debuts, it was not, the biggest show in the world.
Right. Of course, Ford debuted their new F-150.
Yep.
But outside of North America, Ford has another debut. Do you see how I did that there with that little segue?
You're the master of the segue.
I am not the master of segues. I'm not the master of anything except maybe making an iced tea that's not Long Island by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. Well, since it sounds like you want to get into things, let's get into things. And let's talk about a little Ford Ranger, and specifically the fact that Europe and maybe possibly the United States, we don't know yet, but at least Europe is getting a plug-in hybrid version of the Ford Ranger pickup truck.
That is true. And of course, this just came out here a few days ago. Here's what you need to know. It looks like the Ford Ranger that you already know and love or not love, that depending on what you like there. It is a plug-in hybrid. And I should stress, there's still a lot we don't know about it because we're actually a long ways off from this debut. And I just double checked the Ford's press release shortly before we started the show here. Production doesn't begin until about this time next year. And it goes on sale
2024. Yes.
And it goes on sale in 2025. So once again, Bruce, we're faced with a new vehicle that nobody can even think about buying for over a year.
Basically. Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, we don't have a lot of info. There's the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder with a single electric motor. It's a plug-in hybrid. Ford is targeting 28 miles of range, of EV only range.
Right. But I was going to say, we don't have specifics about power output, and we don't have specifics about the battery. So we know the projected range, but there's still a lot that we don't know. And again, and this is going to be a theme for a vehicle we're going to be talking about later, we don't know about whether this vehicle is going to come come to the US or how it is going to come to the US. So, because obviously the North American version of the Ranger is different from the one that the rest of the
Mhm.
world gets. I believe the underpinnings are the same, but the styling is different. A lot of the other things are different about it. So, we can't just say, oh, this is going to be the North American Ranger plug-in, because we don't even know if it's coming here yet.
And honestly, with this being still over a year out for other areas, and Group FBC, I see you there in the chat saying Australia and I believe New Zealand gets the plug-in hybrid Ranger too. I think that is correct. I would
I
need to
believe
just
that's
double
correct. Yeah.
check. I would just need to double check that to make sure. Um, we do know a little bit in that Ford has said this will be the most powerful Ranger ever for torque, but we don't know the torque figure. We can tell you, we can tell you it's probably more than 443 pound-feet, because I think that's the most powerful Ranger you can get right now, and I think that's the diesel Ranger,
Yes, it
putting
is.
out 443 pound-feet of torque. So presumably more than 443 pound-feet of torque. We know that it will have the same towing capacity as the current Ranger. You can get which is 7,716 pounds,
You nailed it.
3,500
That's exactly the
kilograms.
number. Yeah.
It's amazing. I wrote it down and everything. And sometimes I can even read my own handwriting. It's pretty cool.
And it's going to
Um,
have Pro Power on board, which is a system we're familiar with from the F-150 hybrid,
yep,
which means you will be able to plug stuff into the bed that will use up the battery and let you, power things, whether it's tools, whether it's
yep,
a projector at the campsite, lamps, just, whatever you want to plug in, you can plug in.
yeah. Big question there. Again, there are various settings for Pro Power on board. If I remember, it starts at like 2 point some kilowatts and it goes up to I think 7.2 max. Don't know
That
what
sounds right.
the Ranger plug-in hybrid will output there, but
No, we don't.
it's coming in about a year and a half thereabouts. So presumably we will have some more information then. In the meantime,
So
I
wait,
mean, we
I got it.
can.
I love
Uh-oh.
Group of FBC's comment here. He says Ford's Australian proving grounds are just 20 minutes away from him. So yeah, if you see any Rangers with an extra little door on the side, you keep an eye on that, and maybe nudge a guy and ask about some of these specifics, because Ford's not talking about them.
Yeah, and that is kind of a little feature. I mean, how often do we see plug-in hybrids where there's like the fuel door on the back and then a charge port on the front? Ford
Yeah,
put this right there on the same fender, both on
yeah,
the
they're right
left
next to each
rear,
other. Let me pull
on
here.
the
You can
left
see it
rear fender
perfectly.
there. Yep,
These two photos
yep,
right here. One is the fuel door, and then the one with the little lightning bolt is the where you plug it in for electrical.
yep.
So,
That's on the driver's left side. For those
well, not if you're in Australia though, or
who
in
drive on
England.
the left side of the cab. For everybody else that drives on the wrong side, it would be the passenger
Exactly.
side. And I
Exactly.
mean,
But yeah,
but we can talk about this a little bit, because um, obviously F-150, the hybrid here in the States, is growing in popularity. Ford,
yes.
with their updated 2024 F-150, they were talking about their hybrid. They were talking about how they want to double hybrid production in the United States next
Mhm.
year. Um, so they're certainly looking at hybrids with their trucks. I'm kind of wondering why it's taken this long for the Ranger. Doesn't it
That's
seem?
a interesting point. Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way.
I mean, with especially with Ford's push for
I
electrification,
mean,
especially in Europe, where they're
yeah,
moving,
that's
I
an
think
interesting, because
a
remember,
little
the
quicker.
Maverick, the base engine in the Maverick is a hybrid. You have to upgrade to not have
Yep.
a hybrid in it. And obviously the F-150 is available with a hybrid. So yeah, that's an interesting point that they're finally getting around to do it with their kind of middle model.
Yeah,
Um
and I
yeah,
just find
I
it
guess I
curious that
don't
that it's taken this long.
I don't know a good reason as to why you would do that, whether it was maybe a packaging thing. Because keep in mind, the new Ranger in Europe is what, 2 years old, 2.5, something like that. It's a fairly new vehicle,
Mhm.
whereas, here it's brand new. So maybe they had to wait to get that new version out before they could do a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
I
that
just
that could be.
that's a question that I would love to just get with Ford on, see if we can figure out an answer. Um,
Sure.
I I doubt I doubt there would be a very clear forthcoming answer. It just seems very odd, especially with their success here with the F-150 hybrid. It seems like something that should have been in the works a while ago. But
Okay, but you don't know about the packaging stuff though, because it's
yep,
you know it's a vehicle that's sold all over the world, and people all over the world have different needs, and maybe now they're finally able to do it. So I don't know. You know, I'm
yep.
guessing here.
But I mean, styling wise, there are
It's
really
a
no
Ranger.
changes.
Styling, it's
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
Ranger.
yeah. I
Like,
love it. Do you notice? Can you pause right now where we're at on this image,
I
Bruce?
sure
Go
can.
back to
Just
the
one
image on
second.
front.
Yep.
And just as a reminder, as
Whoop.
always,
I go back one.
whether you're listening and watching on Motor One YouTube, Motor One Com Facebook, Motor One Com Twitter, you can jump into the comments as we're doing this live. It all comes into our little command central station, and we can
Yep.
respond along with you. And for those still on audio, we love you on audio. You can stay on audio as long as you want. We will be there for you, whether
Yeah.
it's Spotify, whether it's Google, whether
Do
it's
not talk about Deezer. We're not talking about Deezer today.
I'm not talking about Deezer. I'll talk about
Tell me why
Apple.
you wanted me to stop on this image specifically, though.
Because I love it. Doesn't it look like just like the worst Photoshop ever? Look at that front plate. It's like here's a picture of a white Ford Ranger, and to make sure we understand, the front plate just says Ranger plug-in hybrid, and it looks like it's kind of pasted on there. I just
A little
when
bit.
I was
I see
looking
where you're
through
coming
these
from.
when I was looking through these press photos, that just stuck out to me as like somebody going through and realizing, ooh, well, this just looks like a Ranger. What if people don't know it's a Ranger plug-in hybrid? We'll just put it right here on the front license plate. It just sticks out to me in the biggest way, and I found it absolutely hilarious. And maybe
Okay.
it's just because I'm a little punch drunk today. I've been a
Yeah.
little sick with something that I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what, so
You're trying to
I'm on
figure
a
out
little
what's
bit of
going on with
medicine.
you. I don't necessarily see that, but I agree. It looks like a Ranger. It's,
Yep.
if you couldn't see the extra little door on the bed there, you would just think this is a Ford Ranger because that's what it looks like. So, I guess on one hand, bravo to them that they're not making people buy a truck that looks completely different if they want the plug-in hybrid, but also from a styling perspective, they didn't have to work really hard. They just kind of, you know, cut into the bed, added what they needed to add, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Well, stand by. More to come on the Ranger hybrid as we get information. Again, just as a reminder, it goes into production late next year, goes
Yep.
on sale early 2025. So there'll be a little bit of a wait. Some time maybe to bump up the power. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, we don't know what the power is, so like,
Well,
how much
and
could they bump it if we don't know the number?
that's why they can bump it up. It can be not just the most powerful Ranger ever with torque, but the most powerful Ranger ever with torque. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Do you want to
But
talk about a truck that you can get sooner?
I do want to talk about a truck that we can get sooner.
Let's go to Nissan.
That's right.
And
The hard body
admittedly,
name is back. A name that I have literally always thought was weird. It just seems when you hear the
careful.
word hard body, you think of like a guy at Venice Beach lifting weights. And I don't know. The fact that they Nissan branded trucks for roughly a decade as hard body, it's always seemed weird to me. I don't know, but they're bringing it back.
Crickets. I don't know.
Okay, you can disagree with me. Come
When
on.
I think hard body, I think okay, the Nissan hard body from the 80s and the 90s.
No. Oh, well, I disagree, but okay.
Anyways, yes. Nissan was teasing this, and to be fair, this debuted like a
Day
week
after
and
the
a half
podcast
ago.
last week. So we
Yeah, it
recorded
was.
Wednesday. It debuted Thursday of last week.
Yeah, so we just missed it for last week's podcast, and I really would
Yep.
have loved to have talked about it because we
We
had
knew about it at that time, but we couldn't
we
talk
had the
about it.
information and we couldn't talk about it, and I really
Yeah.
wanted to because I love the press photos that Nissan put out with this, because they have an original club cab hard body from I don't know exactly what year it is, but
Mhm.
it looks like they went to they took great steps to not just, okay, let's get a vehicle that kind of looks like the new one. It looks like they're in the same spot as those old press photos were. I don't
Yes.
know if that's actually the case, but they went to great lengths to really mimic not just the truck, but the location for their press photos. And Nissan, I love you for it. But let's talk a little bit about the truck. One, it's an appearance package.
Group
Um,
FBC, we're gonna get back to your comment in a minute because I've got something to say on that as well. Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
It's an
oh,
appearance
geez.
package.
Oh, yep. It's an appearance package. You get, well, the first thing you notice, the three spoke wheels. I mean, they were always kind of an odd three spoke design, but they are a three spoke layout, 17-inch aluminum wheels. Who does three spokes anymore?
No one.
Even back in the day, three spokes were kind of weird. So bravo for going that route once again. I think they look
Saab
fantastic on
always
here.
loved a three-spoke wheel. There were a lot of Saab three spokes out there.
A lot,
SPG, they
lot of
did it on the Vigan. They
it worked
but
on Saab. It didn't work on everything. It
was
worked
there a
on
Mustang
Saab.
three-spoke? Am I crazy?
The one in my garage had the
Okay.
three spokes. It had the upgraded three spokes. Where it was basically dual spokes per each big spoke,
Yeah.
which was the upgrade for the GT. But they also had like the V6 three spoke, and those were just horrible then, and they're even more horrible now.
Okay.
I got rid of my three spokes a while ago just because I'm not a fan. I'm a fan here on the Nissan Frontier hard body. It is, like I said, an appearance package for the Frontier, so you won't find like a hard body trim. I should have said that right off the bat. I apologize, everybody.
No,
This
you're good.
is this is the Nissan Frontier. The hard
Hard
body
body
is
edition.
available on the Crew Cab SV 4x4 trim. And you get the three spoke wheels, as we said, 17-inch. You get a lot of blackout stuff, blackout treatment on the grill, the door handles, bumpers, those fender flares. You also get mud flaps down low. You get skid plates down low. You get cool kind of retro graphics in various places on the truck,
Yep.
like on the side, on the back. Uh,
There's that style bar along the
they
side.
put that, yeah, they put that style bar on there, which, I mean, they call them style bars now, but obviously they're trying to like mimic the old school roll bars, and
Oh,
I think
totally.
I think it does a really good job on that. And yeah, it's an appearance package. It's a $3,890 appearance package, which I don't know if that's really out of line or not. I mean,
It
how do we
seems
feel about that,
reasonable,
Bruce?
if I'm honest. Like that seems
For
fine.
the wheels, the graphics, blackout, the style bar, the mud flaps. Because
That doesn't seem egregious to
because
me.
here's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Um, it's available on the Crew Cab SB 4x4 SV, sorry, SV 4x4 model. That starts for 2024. That starts at $36,870.
Sure.
So you add in the hard body appearance package. That's $3,890. You add $1,335 destination fee, and you're at $42,095. That's the least you will pay
But am I
MSRP for
mistaken
a
that
new
the average
Frontier.
car in the United States right now is 45 grand?
Yeah, but we're still talking about a Frontier. I mean, it's not the most expensive Frontier,
Right.
but it's right there. I mean, I bring it up just as a point of discussion, and ramblers out there chime in too. Um,
Yeah, I see
I
where you're
I
going
lo-
with it.
I
That
love the
like
retro theme. We're still talking about a mid-size Nissan Hardbody. It's got the 3.8 liter V6 under the hood, 310 horsepower, 9-speed automatic. That hasn't changed, and that engine transmission combo came out 2 or 3 years ago. It came
I
out
was 3
before
was the number in my
it
mind, but
it
yeah.
it came out at the tail end of the previous generation. So I mean, we still have that powertrain. Everything else under the skin is the same. I love it. I don't know if I love it for 42,000. Because if I remember correctly,
I'm
I'll
on
have
the
to.
fence on this one, bud. I see what you're saying. You're right.
Mhm,
$42,000 for a mid-sized pickup truck feels like a lot. But when you also consider that you're adding, just a little bit less than 10% of the cost to kind of get this retro look,
mhm.
that feels kind of reasonable to me. And maybe I'm just, whacked out from,
No, no, no,
what
you're
modern
not.
cars cost. Like,
You're not.
what
Modern cars are expensive new, and I mean, yeah, I mean, this isn't.
here,
I mean, this
Group
this
of
this is
FBC
this isn't a 60 or
and
$70,000 grab for sure.
no, Group of FBC and Ted Adam Green are basically saying the same thing. It's nostalgia done right. It doesn't look like a pastiche, and it gives a rugged, practical look. Ted Adam Green says one of Nissan's better ideas of late, I think, despite the questionable name, lead into the nostalgia.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
agree. So, when we were preparing this topic, I actually pulled up some pictures of an original hard body. And just for anyone out there who maybe, isn't from this country, which I know some of our listeners aren't, or don't have a memory or weren't around that or whatever. And this is the photo I'm going to pull up now is like the most basic version you could get. And, it's a small, basic little
Yeah.
pickup truck. And
Yep.
that's what they were. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, and if I haven't, I hope I haven't. I should put it that way. When I was in middle school, there was a car club for mini trucks amongst a bunch of kids in the high school, and they called themselves the Sweet and Lowdown. I will let if for anyone outside the country, sweet and low is a sugar substitute. So calling yourself sweet and low down for dropped mini trucks, I guess is funny, but that's what they called themselves. But it was the Toyota pickup, as we called it at the time, because we didn't have the Tacoma name, or yeah, we didn't have the Tacoma name yet. Do you remember what did Mazda call their little truck? Was it
Was it like the B1000 or B1500?
That's yes, the B series
It was shared with Ford with the Ford
with the
Ranger.
Ranger. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. But it was all of like little trucks like that, and
Yep.
this was amongst them. And they were small trucks that if you were if you were a tradesman, and you were carrying like you weren't hauling all of the lumber to work, but you needed to haul tools. That's what these trucks were for, essentially. And now, though, we have this nostalgia for them. And so they've become this much more stylish thing of kind of what the new Nissan hard body, the hard body package is. But it's, I, the thing is, I'm a child of this era. So I like seeing these names come back, and I like seeing how they're implemented again. So, I kind of like it. I wouldn't buy one. I have no interest in buying one, but I also like that it exists, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm there with you. I'm a child of the '80s. I love the retro thing going on, and I really enjoy seeing how the various age demographics as you progress. The the automotive segment kind of progresses with it, and I guess what I'm talking about is, you jump back, especially 10 to 20 years ago, muscle cars from the 60s were just, I mean, they were going crazy on value.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wanted them. There's some are still way up there, but a lot of them have kind of come back down. And now
Yep.
we're seeing that shift to the 80s and like the late 70s. And it's even kind of jumping a little bit ahead to the 90s now. Just
Oh yeah.
as that older demographic, presumably with some disposable income, which hey, I'm still waiting for that, by the way. That
Same
older
here, bud.
demographic, they're in a position where they can afford this stuff. They're willing to pay. That's why we just saw a Datsun 280ZX go for 200 and some $1,000, right?
That was wild. Yeah,
That
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 happened in
was
Monterey. We covered
Yep,
it. If you look on Motor One, if you look up Datsun or Nissan, I forget how we named the story, but
yep.
$200,000 for an early. What I think it was an '83, if I'm not
I,
mistaken.
I can't remember the exact year. It was a very rare car, and it was basically showroom new. It was
Yes.
one of 200, I think. in a
But
certain
still,
in a certain paint body color that was awarded to dealerships that met certain sales goals. And this dealer just never sold it. They just kind of put it in storage and kept it. So I mean, yeah, it's very, very special model. But
look here.
still,
I
Bruce.
pulled it up right here. It's an 80. Sorry.
Okay,
1980 Datsun 280ZX. It had 28 miles on it, but it sold for $231,000,
yeah, and I
which
mean,
it's the worst one too. It's that horrible 2+2 body style. It's
it's
not even
no,
the two-seater.
yeah, yeah, it is, Bruce. That's
No,
that's
it's
that's the two
not.
seater. Yeah, it is. But I promise there are only two seats in that car.
Okay. Okay,
But
now that I'm looking at it. Okay, you're
yeah,
right. You're right.
it could be a little confusing there. But I don't mind the four seater either. But yeah, you're right. The four seater
Oh, the four-seater's
wouldn't
hideous,
bring that much.
but still, that's a $231,000 car right
Mhm.
now is amazing
And
because, I understandably, it's incredibly clean. It's in super low miles,
it's
stuff like that.
showroom. I mean, it's showroom new. It's not a car. Unfortunately, it's not a car that you'll drive. And there's sort of the catch 22, right?
But
But
10 years ago, you
it
would not
looks
have gotten
amazing. Oh no,
$231,000 for that car.
oh no. I bet it still would have brought more than you would expect. But I
Sure.
mean, that's a super rare example. But still,
Right.
Bruce, how many recent cheap car challenges have we done where we're thinking, oh, we'll just dip into the well of the 300ZX or like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
A70
Those cars don't
Supras,
exist
and
anymore.
now those are started. So it's fascinating to see that
You're
the
right.
trends in the automotive realm shift with the demographics.
You're
Which
absolutely right.
brings me back to the Nissan Hardbody because now that demographic, we're shifting into that 80s demographic. This is kind
Yep.
of calling back to the 80s. It's a neat callback. I'm still just wondering if it's a $42,000 callback because the Nissan Hardbody, as you pointed out, it wasn't just a rugged 4x4, it was just a truck. And
Yeah.
maybe you offer a hard body appearance package on all of the trim levels, or maybe you offer a different kind of hard body package for we'll say the just the regular two-wheel drive truck. Maybe you give a little more, you give people a little more choice to have your nostalgia.
And if this is yeah, sorry. If this is successful, that could happen. If maybe this is the starting point and tons of people go out and buy this truck, you better believe, Nissan is in the business to make money by selling cars, and
Yep.
they are going to introduce however many hard bodies as they need to introduce.
Hard body, all the things. Don't Google that,
Exactly.
everybody. Top tip. We'll find out starting later this year because these are set to go on sale here just later in the fall. Fall 2023, not 2024. So
Yep.
it'll be available pretty soon. And I think that does it for the truck content today.
It does. Yeah. Next up, we're going to be talking about a crossover, a small SUV, however you want to say it. Smith, this is an interesting thing. I have been using the term crossover less and less as I write about vehicles these days. And it's largely because the term has become sort of meaningless. Where when I started out in this profession, an SUV was a very specific thing. It was a body on frame vehicle
Mhm.
generally with an enclosed rear end, and that's what it was. And since starting with the 90s with the CRV and the RAV4 and then increasing over and over and over again, now basically unibody, what I used to call crossovers, are kind of the norm, and there are far fewer of the body
Mhm.
on frame vehicles. So when I'm writing stuff more and more, I just find myself using the term SUV because it seems more appropriate. Um, do you have any
I am
thoughts
right
on that?
there. Yes, I am right there with you. And do you remember one of our earlier podcasts? I'm talking like maybe the first the first 10 or so, which still
Sure.
exist out there, folks.
Oh yeah.
You can go, I can't remember if they're still on the Motor One YouTube channel, or our old
No, there'd
Motor
be a
One,
Motor One podcast.
our old Motor One podcast YouTube channel still exists. And we have everything there. One of the earlier podcasts we talked about vehicle classifications and
Yep.
definitions, and we got really specific on a lot of stuff. And I would love to revisit that, and we never have, because
No.
this falls right into that topic. You're right. The classic structured traditional definition of an SUV is a body on frame, basically like a truck based vehicle.
Yeah. It's
And
the
and
original
over the
Bronco.
years,
It's the
yep,
Dodge Ram Charger. It's the original Chevy Blazer.
yep.
It's vehicles. It's the original kind of Toyota Land Cruiser, the FJ40, and even the FJ. It's like
And
I can
now
tell you
it's
what those vehicles are.
and now it's pretty much anything that has kind of a chunky looking body with some
Right.
measure of all-wheel drive that doesn't sit super low to the ground. And I guess a crossover, I think more people think of as something that maybe it looks like a car that somebody lifted.
Yes.
I mean that's I think the really simple, separated kind of way to look at it.
Yep.
But I use crossover less and less because it feels like all SUVs are crossovers now. I mean, they're all just about all
Yeah.
unibody. I mean, some of them are still rear wheel drive with optional 4-wheel drive. Some of them are front wheel drive with
Mhm.
optional all wheel drive. It all blends
Yep.
together. But SUV is the term we use, and
A-
SUV is the term that Volkswagen uses. Correct?
It is so this is the third generation Tiguan, and I threw this comment up here because this is something I only learned about in the past few weeks because I got my knuckles wrapped by our boss Adrian, who explained this to me. So Group of FBC says, "Yay! It's the return of VW's random press shot guy." That actually, it turns out, is a member of our German team. I do not know how they get access to these vehicles before the embargo lifts and take photos with them, but they do. And so, yes, the red-haired guy in these photos is a member of Motor1.com's German team. Again, I've never met him. I do not know his name, but they get access to this stuff. So he is not a VW random press shot guy. He is a Motor One random press shot guy.
There you go. And our German edition of Motor One. I mean, they have all kinds of great access. They have some great
Oh,
connections with
they have very
automakers.
good access to stuff.
And we totally appreciate them. And hey, we don't
Oh,
mind
so
seeing.
no, I wasn't
We
trying to
don't
put
mind
anyone
seeing
down at
the.
all. I was
Oh
just
no,
trying to
I got you.
explain in a semi-humorous way
Yep.
that what's going on here.
Motor One's random press shot guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, we're getting some great images that you're only going to see here. You're not going to see them in any other images. So that's why you got to stick
Right. You're
with
not going to see that guy
motor1.com.
in any other images.
But the
Um,
Tiguan just debuted here
2
yesterday.
days ago. Was it yes?
Was it yesterday or the day before?
So yes, I wrote the story 2 days ago, but the embargo was yesterday.
Okay.
So you're
Yep.
right.
Embargo was up yesterday. Don't mess with my head, man.
No, it's just
I'm
weird
on
because you write a
Sudafed
story
and
you
special iced
schedule it,
tea. I
and
know.
then
I got you.
you forget, and they're like, "Oh, it debuted." I wrote it 2 days ago, but yeah, it went up yesterday. As
So
the
so
time
let's
of this recording.
so let's talk about this because you wrote it up, and this is technically a new generation, correct?
Yes, this is the third generation Tiguan, and I have to be very, very specific about this at first because so far it has only debuted for Europe. We
Yes.
do know a version is coming to the United States. However, it will be based on the long
Long
wheelbase
wheelbase.
version of the Tiguan, which has not debuted yet.
Right.
So
And that's
everything I
confirmed.
say here,
That is confirmed by Volkswagen, by the way. They
Yes.
confirmed that
Yes.
with us directly that yes, will debut in North America long wheelbase version.
yes. So understand that the things that I am talking about here are for the European market, not necessarily for the American market. Some things might be shared, but not everything might be shared. So just, keep that in mind.
More to come.
So it debuts, it has an exterior design that's a lot more like the Volkswagen ID4. You look at the front end and it can almost fake you out thinking that this is an EV, but it's not. You can get hybrid versions, but this is not a pure EV. But there's a lot of ID4 going on in that front end.
There is.
So and then for what Europe is always kind of famous for getting a bunch of powertrains for vehicles, and that's largely for tax purposes because different countries there kind of have different tax stuff, or there's just buyers there that kind of need different things. So I'm going to go through the powertrains, and there's a lot to go through because there's just a bunch available. So in Europe, there are two plug-in hybrid options. One of them has 201 horsepower, 268 pound-feet of torque, and a 19.7 kilowatt hour battery. And it can charge at 11 kilowatts on AC power, 50 kilowatts on a DC fast charger. Unfortunately, we do not have any range numbers, so I can tell you what it charges at, but I can't tell you how far it'll go on electric power. There's also a mild hybrid turbocharged 1.5 liter four cylinder with a 48 volt lithium ion battery. And they didn't give us the horsepower or torque numbers for that setup. So sorry, folks. Like, I can only give you the information that I have and that Volkswagen is willing to release. So that's kind of where we are. There's also, if you don't want any electrification, you're like, I don't want any of that garbage. Not that it's garbage. I just use that as a quick way of saying things. There's a turbocharged 2-liter four-cylinder, and that makes 201 horsepower or 262 horsepower, depending on which version you get. And then there is also a turbo diesel 2-liter version, and that makes 148 horsepower, or you can get it with 190 horsepower. So Europeans, you guys just have every powertrain
All
anyone
the
could
options.
want. I doubt very highly all of these will be available in the US once it comes here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get a plug-in hybrid and a gasoline engine, and maybe that's it. And that's just because that's me speculating based on the other offerings from Volkswagen in the US. We're definitely not going to get the diesel. I guess Volkswagen hasn't confirmed that, but just look at Volkswagen's lineup in the US. I would be very, very confident in saying that the diesel's not coming here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Let me just chime in really quick though, Bruce, because
buddy.
I do have a number of 62 miles of maximum range for a hybrid.
For the plug-in hybrid, yes.
Okay, that's the plug-in hybrid. Okay,
Yes.
so you can get up to 62, which I mean that's not bad
And
for
keep in mind, that's
EV only.
WLTP, which is the
That's
European
true.
standard, and that's famously kind of
It's a bit more generous
with the numbers you get.
Yeah, it's a bit more generous than
Yeah.
EPA ratings here for the States.
Yeah.
I just want to comment really quick on the outside because the reason I asked specifically in the beginning, is this a new generation? When you look at it in profile, it looks very much like the current model, right?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it's got the MQB Evo platform underneath.
Yep.
The styling up front certainly is different, but it's the interior that I think really kind of steps it up to another level.
Yes. Yes. We get a digital instrument cluster now. You get a nice big screen. Perfect timing. You can see our German pal playing with it there. It is a much nicer interior than the current Tiguan.
Mhm. I'm wondering though, is it the thing that stood out to me for the interior? I mean, obviously we have just kind of that big stand up touchscreen in the middle. Did we get specific dimensions on the screens?
They did not say the screen,
have
although
that
they
pulled
did
up yet.
say
Okay.
it shares the same tech that's available in the ID4,
Okay.
ID5, and ID7.
Okay.
So we know it's running that same software package, but they did not specify an exact size.
I guess I'm surprised to see the proportions, especially up there on the dash, are very squared off, square and rectangular. Everything just looks like it was designed with a ruler, right?
Sure.
I mean, I think we've gotten used to seeing lots of curves, especially with the previous generation Tiguan. This one, I mean, the driver's digital display, it's just square right back there.
Oh yeah, it's
whole-
very
the-
square.
The whole dash is just straight line rectangle,
Yep.
and that center touch screen is just a straight rectangle sitting atop that little platform that just goes straight across the dash. I mean, it literally looks like somebody just took a ruler, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line. We'll put this in here. We'll put this in here. I mean, even the center console doesn't have much curve to it.
I
I mean that
yeah,
was
the
I don't know
interior
if you
is
need to
very
answer. That was
angular.
just that was just my takeaway.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I can't fight you there. Like, yeah, it's a very angular look, and some people like that type of simplicity. Some people don't. Like we just saw what
Mhm.
2 weeks was I think it was 2 weeks ago where we saw the new Mini Cooper where it's got that round display in the middle, which we don't usually see in vehicles. So, different automakers are kind of trying to figure out different ways to incorporate this tech into their cabins, and Volkswagen feels like this very simple, angular, just kind of appearance is the right thing to do for them.
Well,
But yeah,
let me jump over here to the comments because I
sure.
just want to just make sure we go. Eric Nephron says it's a handsome car. Fair, fair.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
I
think
guess
it's ugly. I don't think it's jaw dropping, but I don't think it's, it's fine. It,
Bruce,
the,
I think you and I are on the same wavelength here because I'm looking at it and yeah, I mean it's fine, it's handsome, but I'm just not seeing anything that really makes it stand out to me. And I traditionally haven't been a huge fan of Volkswagen. And I'm trying not to let any bias come in there. It's just there are so many SUVs available.
yes.
Who's going to buy this one over something else? And that's where I come up with, oh gosh, I don't really know,
I mean,
right?
I guess as a selling
I
point,
mean
there
I
are
mean that
so many powertrains available that,
yeah,
if
that
there's
that
something
rear
specific you want,
the
whether
rear
it's
cup
plug-in
holder is
hybrid,
kind of
mild
cool.
hybrid, diesel, gasoline, like there's going to be something out there for those
Mhm.
folks.
Yeah, the rear cup holder that pulls out and then it can swivel left or right. That's kind of a neat idea. I'll go
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I can't, you know, I agree with you. I don't think that this is a jaw dropping, absolutely stunning vehicle. There's never been anything like it. But
oh,
I wouldn't also say that like Volkswagen dropped the ball on this
oh
either.
no, oh no, 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 no. That's
It's
not what I'm
just
going at all.
it is.
I'm looking at it and I mean, there's and maybe we've gotten used to some of the jaw dropping kind of polarizing things that we often talk about and sometimes get a little down on. There's nothing here that's really making me take a second look. Maybe that's a selling point for it.
Yeah.
It's not trying to be extraordinary. It's just trying to look handsome and get people from where they need to go to where they need to be, right?
Yeah. And again, as I said, you and I are probably going to be talking about this vehicle again because
Oh,
this is
yes.
not the version coming to North America. The Volkswagen has confirmed that. We know that. It is
The long wheelbase
the
will be here.
long wheelbase version is coming here, and maybe there are going to be some differences we don't know yet until it arrives.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's worth bringing up. But I agree with you. It's it, some vehicles have to exist in that middle area, and I feel like this one does, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That's a good point. Are there any other tech features that we missed? I know
The
there wasn't a huge list of features that Volkswagen announced with this debut. So I mean I know there's more information still to come.
There is more, but the only other thing I wanted to mention that an adaptive suspension system will be available with 2-valve air shocks, and electronic differential locks will also be available. But those are the only other things I can add.
Okay, very good. Well, stay tuned, Ramblers, for more. And hey, if you have any questions on this or anything else that we talk about, podcast@motorone.com. Our email is there.
Yeah.
It is open. It is ready anytime. And
Group of
yeah,
FBC says they ditched the capacitive touchscreens on the steering wheel. Rejoice. That's a fair point too, that we're seeing automakers do that, that people, for certain functions, certainly people want physical buttons. People want, maybe knobs or sliders for heat. There are places where physical buttons should be. They just
Mhm.
work better for some things.
And I mean, you have that tactile sensation, but it's also a case of you don't always have to take your eyes off the road to
Yep.
know when you're affecting a command. If you're on a touch screen, it just feels like touch screen anywhere you're at. I mean,
Well, I mean,
you
the
might
other thing is if you live in a place where it gets vaguely cold and you drive with gloves, unless you buy the specific gloves that have the capacitive function, you have to take your gloves off to do any of those things,
this is
which
true,
is
and
not great.
I am a big proponent of gloves in the wintertime, just to
Yeah.
help keep
And
my
I'm not
hands
saying
warm.
like, oh, the fancy like leather driving gloves, like I'm a fancy lad. I'm saying like gloves because I live in Ohio and it can get into the negative degrees and
Oh,
my hands
I
need to
I
stay
paid
warm.
I paid extra for the fancy schmancy leather gloves with the stuff in the fingertips that's supposed to work, and it only works like 50% of the time on screens.
Okay. Yeah.
Only works 50% of the time on screens.
Okie doke.
What do we got here next, Bruce?
Well, last topic before we get to the cheap car challenge is an electric mini, but not from Mini, an electric mini from David Brown Automotive.
Mhm.
If you could vamp for me for just a second, because I got to get these images up.
I
And
absolutely
it's
can.
quite pricey.
Well,
This is not an inexpensive mini by any stretch of the
well,
imagination.
and this is and I want to be clear, this is a resto mod. This isn't a new mini. This is very much a
Correct.
classic mini. And
Yeah.
David Brown Automotive, I mean, they're known in the industry for really going after the older minis, doing them up really really nice, giving them all kinds of modern touches. This is their first time going into the electric realm, and everything. I'm going to try to set everybody up here, and ramblers, wherever you're listening, chime into the comments when I'm done. I want to see if your reaction is the same as mine, because as I'm going through and I'm learning about this, it's called the Mini E Mastered. It has just a single electric motor in there. It produces 96 horsepower. So this isn't one of those high power, hey, look, I Tesla Plaid swapped to my Mini and we're doing
Yeah.
it. No, no, it's not that. Single electric motor, 96 horsepower. It has an 18.8 kilowatt battery. It has a range of 110 miles. It goes 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.5 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers in 8.5 seconds. Top speed is 92 miles an hour. So you're thinking, okay, I mean, it's a classic mini. It's the performance isn't anything to write home about, even with this resto mod.
And
Um,
before you get to your point, I just want to say they also kept the weight
uh,
incredibly low. This thing only
that,
weighs
that,
1,400 pounds.
oh, that's what I wanted to set up, Bruce.
Oh, I thought
I
you were
was
setting up the price because that's the
well, well,
shocking part.
yeah. Here's the price: $154,500. Let me say that again: $154,500. Um, I do want to point out the interior is gorgeous. It looks like a
Oh yeah.
Bentley inside. They don't just put some wheels on it and drop this electric powertrain in there. These are gorgeous inside. They're stunning to behold. And as I'm going through all of those stats, and I'm thinking 154,000, okay, they got a small battery in it. It's only 110 miles, 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds. You're kind of losing all of the appeal of having an EV with something with longer range. There are so many other options. But then we get to the weight. 1,411 pounds. It's the same weight as it was with a gasoline engine.
Hmm.
And in the age of electric vehicles, that doesn't happen. Now,
No.
granted that they're not giving it a huge motor, they're not giving it a huge battery, but Bruce doesn't. This kind of just changed my whole approach on this. Where hey, it's supremely expensive, but it's also, in my mind, in many ways, still has like the mini essence because
It does.
it's small, it's lightweight, it's not it's not overpowered by any means. It's something that you would get up to speed and you would just enjoy keeping there once you got there. and I would love to drive this. I'm dying to know how this
Oh,
feels.
this thing would I would love to drive it. I don't wanna pay for it. I don't wanna, I don't have the money to pay, but if they invited me and said, "Hey, do you wanna take one around?" I would love to just see what this thing feels like.
Mhm. And I mean that, and again, the interior. When you look at the interior with just the various
Oh,
leathers
no,
that are
they
in there,
update
the
the
materials.
interior. It's as nice as it's luxury car interior.
It is, yeah, luxury. I love the shifter that's in the center console. It's an EV. There are no gears, but they still have the shifter there in the classic shifter style. But when you look at
But if
it,
you notice, it's just
there's
R and
just,
D. It's reverse
yeah,
and drive.
I know it's just reverse
You going
and
forward, you
drive.
going backward? What are you going? Where are you going?
But they still keep that traditional manual transmission stock in there, and I love them for that. And of course, I mean, we're looking at all kinds of beautiful aluminum trim in there. Just a gorgeous vehicle, very very pricey. Yes, I mean this isn't a vehicle that's going to be marketed to just anybody. Um,
Right.
but I think, I mean, after listening to me say, "Oh, is $42,000 too much for a Nissan Frontier Hardbody?" And now here I am saying, "Dude, this $150,000 Mini is awesome." The Nissan's awesome too. But I mean, this is focused at this isn't a mass market vehicle. This has a
No,
very
no, no,
specific
no.
person in mind, and I think that specific person will love this thing.
Sure. I do too. It's, you know, this would never be someone's daily driver. What,
Oh no,
110-mile range, stuff but if you had the money, if you're some British aristocrat or something like that, and you could, throw down on something like this would be a very fun car just to, drive around on the weekend or, drive into town or something like that.
Mhm.
Also, real quick, because it's come up twice, the image has come up twice now. For any of our British or just music nerd listeners, the setting behind this, is this the same place where the Pink Floyd Animals album cover is from? Because it looks a lot like it, but I'm not 1,000% sure. So just let me know in the comments.
Oh, I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, and I should know the answer to that, Bruce. And now I feel ashamed that I don't. But I'm gonna look that up
Fair enough.
because that didn't occur to me until you just pointed that out.
I know
And
that power plant still exists, but I
yeah,
also know that there are other power plants that look like that, so it would make sense.
definitely
Um,
have to look that up. Group FBC
no,
is
it
chiming into the comments saying,
he says it's the
um,
Battersea. Is
"The
that
Battersea
where
Power
the Pink
Station."
Floyd Animals? For anyone who doesn't know, the Pink Floyd Animals album cover is a floating pig above this power plant, and it's a very, very, very famous. Look it up. Once you
Yep,
see it, you'll definitely know it. It's a very famous album cover.
yep.
Um,
I'm
but
gonna
yeah,
be looking that up after the podcast here. Very
but
astute, Bruce. I'm impressed. That's awesome, man.
I think it's time for our cheap car challenge.
Oh
And
boy.
I want so I have a question for you. I want you to explain what the cheap car challenge was, and then I have a question for you after that I have not asked you up until now.
Okay, well, we were talking today. We knew things were a little bit lighter, so it was a good
Yep.
opportunity for a cheap car challenge. We are just, I think, a couple days from the first day of autumn. I think it's September 23rd this year.
Oh, is it
Um,
that soon? Wow.
yeah, it is almost here already. And for those of us in the northern latitudes,
It is. You're
it's
right.
it's
September 23rd is the first day of fall.
it, it's fall color tour season. There are many, many places to go out as the leaves are changing. If you enjoy driving, cruising, I mean, this is almost the best time of year. And also you start getting some cooler temperatures. Engines
Yep,
love the cooler air for
they
horsepower.
do.
So, I mean, there are cruises all over the place. I'm here in northern lower Michigan. There are some properly gorgeous places to tour up here. In fact, there is a place it's about an hour or so northwest of me. It's literally called the Tunnel of Trees because the
Mhm.
road winds through. It's just trees on all sides that basically form, well, a tunnel. I know I'm trying to be more imaginative than that, and there's no way. But I mean, color season, it's unbelievably gorgeous.
Yeah.
I've been
So
fortunate
real
enough.
I was
Uh,
just going to say
Go ahead. Go
two
ahead.
things. So first off, for any of our foreign listeners, this is not Smith and I making something up. There are people, and I have done it, and Smith, I assume you've done, where when the trees start changing and the leaves start turning these shades of orange and yellow and red and stuff like that, a lot of people, they just kind of drive around, especially on back roads and stuff like that in rural areas, and they just take in the colors. So this is very much a real thing. We're not making this up. Um,
Oh no!
uh,
I mean, there are cruises that are planned all year to go out and see colors. I've been fortunate enough to go through New England just
oh,
after
have you?
peak,
Good.
like up through the White Mountains up that way.
Mhm.
Stunning. Out in South Dakota, there was Spearfish Canyon, which Bruce, if you want to vamp just a little bit. Oh, I actually
Of
hold
course
on
I
before
can.
we do that. But before we do that, let me tell everybody about the cheap card challenge. We said, okay, we need to find a nice car that you want to take for a fall color tour for $4,000.
Yes.
That's our criteria. And if you can
Right.
vamp for me, I'm gonna
I
try.
can totally vamp for you
I was trying
because
before we started to get some of my photos to work here.
no. I can easily talk about this because I wasn't 1,000% sure what you meant by a car to take on the fall color tour. Here's what it means to me, and it could mean something different to you. To me, it should mean something that is fun to drive, but it doesn't have to be sporty. You could, an old Cadillac it should just be something that's relaxing and you're going the speed limit. Generally you're with a loved one, a spouse, a kid, a dog, whatever, and you're just enjoying the scenery. It's pure just like touring. You're not sliding through every corner. You're not doing anything. It's just you're just wafting along and feeling comfortable. You maybe, depending on the time of the year, you got the windows down or partially down. You're enjoying those like really like musky smells of fall, of like the leaves on the
Musky
ground, and they're
smells of
starting
fall.
to kind of degrade back into the earth. There's a little bit of nip in the air. That's what it meant to me. And those were the criteria I used when selecting these vehicles. But I never asked you this beforehand. What does it mean to you to have a car for kind of a fall color tour?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
No, as I was going through, I thought, okay, yeah, it's not about going out and just corner carving. It's not about
No, no.
sprinting. It's about cruising, relaxing, but you still want to have something that you enjoy driving, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you wanna have something that you enjoy driving, but, all out performance is not what you need
So,
here.
so let me tell you what I'm not doing, right? I'm not going out in pretty much any SUV just because
Correct.
I don't want that just bigger feel, or at least sitting up. I
Well,
just I want
one
to
of
be.
mine definitely has a bigger feel, but it's not an SUV.
Well, yeah, yeah, you know what I mean though. Um, I don't necessarily want something, especially like newer body styles, like a Chrysler 300 or something that has that real high body look with the narrower
Yep.
windows.
Yep.
You want to see outside, so
Exactly. You're
something
wanting to see, yeah,
something
yeah.
with nice clear vision. Do I want a convertible? I thought, well, maybe yes.
Convertible with the
You
heat on.
I mean, I do. I love that. I
Yeah.
have no problem going out in 45, 50 degrees with the roof
Keep in
down,
mind,
the heater on.
folks, for any listeners out there, Smith has dressed up as Santa Claus and gone out on Christmas Eve in his convertible Mustang and just waved at
With with
people.
with the
So,
top down, ho, 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 and I'm
yeah.
tossing, like, candy and stuff out. I love that, absolutely. Um, Although, I will say this is a little bit better setting
Oh, yeah.
for the this is one of my color tours in South Dakota, Spearfish Canyon. I'm super glad I got my little slideshow to work here.
Very good.
Um, the colors out there just get
Yeah.
fantastic. This is a particular hike up the canyon. Um, and in the course of this hike, I discovered the best way to photograph a Mustang if you look in this photo, you're nice and safe. You're not going to be hit by any Mustang standing this far away. I think that's my car
We can't see your
right,
mouse, buddy.
right down there. Well, I know I'm trying to describe exactly where it's at here. If you
Well,
see the bigger tree to the left,
I see big tree on left. Yeah.
right there where the road is going. If you just
Yeah.
move maybe a half an inch to the left, I'm parked right over there along the side of the road.
So you're the very first car you see after the tree.
No, I'm the
No. Okay.
I'm the because the first car you see after the tree is actually on the road. There's a little parking area up there.
Okay.
I
Fair
don't know
enough.
if I have. I don't think I have any closer images because
Okay.
you got to be safe. But yeah,
That's a good
stuff
image. That's a good image right there.
stuff like that. Going out, seeing the color, taking a trip. If it's warm enough, put the roof down. But yeah, that's our criteria for the cheap car challenge. Now I have 2 cars.
I also have 2 cars.
Okay. And I should point out before we get going, our boss is in the chat. I have the winner already, guys. Are you talking about your Mercedes? Because I got to be honest, I was looking for a nice Mercedes. That would have been an excellent car, but at $4,000, I was finding them. But it's like, is the color tour that I want to take like actual through the leaves color tour, or like, hey, check out the paint job on this tow truck color tour, right? So Bruce, why don't you jump in and go first?
Okay.
Oh,
I'm going to pick my more realistic one first, and then I'm going to do my fantasy
more
one
realistic.
second.
Okay.
I found let me pull it up here, a 2002 Volkswagen Cabrio for $3,995 with a manual transmission, a white leather interior. And I immediately thought of, and I hope some of the folks, I hope some of the folks have seen this, but the VW Cabrio commercial where they play Nick Drake's Pink Moon with the people in it. And I immediately thought of that. And so for just about $4,000, manual transmission, I would love to take my wife and have my dog in the back and just cruise around, look at the fall colors. Granted, you have to turn the heat on. I think this car would be perfect though.
That's not bad. I mean, it's certainly a little small. It would just be,
I mean, for my wife and dog, it's not small. Like, I don't have kids, so
right. And hey, it's a nice car. It's a perfectly logical choice. Yeah, I hope there isn't too much air leaking around that top.
but if it's, if it's for something like that, it's totally worthwhile. So I did pull up, I have muted the audio because as soon as this starts playing, we would get copyright struck. But here is the Volkswagen ad for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's 1 minute long, so Smith and I can kind of vamp and talk about it as it's going on. But if you've not seen it, this has got to be one of VW's best ads ever. It is for the Cabrio. It's a bunch of people who look like they're in their mid-20s, and they're cruising down the road in their Cabrio, and they're
They were smart. They shot it at night, so you can't really see it.
There's that. There is that.
I mean, that makes total sense to me.
But it's just a very romantic thing, and I think it would also be perfect for, like we were talking about, infinite views. Throw down the windows, open up the roof, look at the changing colors of the trees. It's just it feels really good to me, and it is within $5 of our price range, so I couldn't help but pick it.
And Seth wants to remind you that I am very tall. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, Seth. We need to. It's time. It's time you and I had a good conversation. I'll make sure I contact HR too. Okay. No, I kidding aside, a good logical choice. I
don't think there's anything wrong with that choice. It's not the most glamorous, most beautiful choice, but hey, $3,995. I'm within $5 of our budget, and I think that would be a fantastic car to go look at leaves in. So,
I
what's your
I
next
I
one?
I think it would, as long as you can have the roof down, and as long as the,
Also,
you know, the the
thank
the
you,
the
Group
check engine lights.
FBC. Smith, you're judging the Golf on its looks, but you think a 959 looks generic. You're disqualified. It's got
I
a
mean I
good
mean
point.
I mean, see, this is what happens when I tell the truth. So I'm just gonna be like everybody else and say the 959 is just flipping awesome.
See?
Okay,
Show
let's
me your
move on to
car.
my choice. And now, like I was telling you before we started, I had a little bit of trouble trying to find something that I really wanted to drive. But I settled for my first choice on this van. For me a second here.
Absolutely. No, I think this you came up with this brief today, and I thought it was something I'd never even considered because so when my wife and I first started dating, we went to Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. And one of the things that we did do one year as a very early date that we went on is we took my car and just drove through rural areas. We ended up finding like this little community what is it? It wasn't like a swap meet. They had like food and stuff like that. And it was just it was a really nice way to get to know her and to spend time with her at that time. And so it's a really special memory to me. And so I just love the fall so much. She and I have talked about that whenever the fall comes around, we always think about kind of our time in college because it's just how we identify things.
Oh, that's sweet. Think how much better it would have been if you had a 1989 Cadillac Alante.
That's a good pick. That's a strong pick.
It is a little
It's
over.
overpriced, my friend.
It's 4,300, but come on, I show up with 4 grand and it's
You'll take
gone
it. He'll
because
take it.
it's a Cadillac Alante, and there's probably something wrong under the hood that we don't know about. But it says the description here: beautiful burgundy, saddle tan leather, upgraded factory chrome wheels, never driven in winter, so there's no rust. It actually
I got to
looks
be
pretty.
1,000% honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen an Alante not in that color. I
I,
swear that's
I
the only
have.
color they sold.
I've seen them in brighter red and I've seen them in silver. In fact,
Yeah.
I drove one many moons ago, brighter red. I didn't own it. I drove it. I mean, neat car, V8 up front,
Yeah.
two-seater.
Good
Um,
choice.
I mean, it. I know they're comfortable. I know they ride decent. It's gonna be kind of neat to drive. I'm gonna feel, hey, check it out. I'm in my Alante. Look at this.
Yeah.
It says 111,000 miles. I have no idea if that's high or low for the Alante because I know pretty much nothing about them other than they were a weird two-seater Cadillac with a removable hardtop, and it looks like this one
Yeah.
only has
Well, I
the
mean, this is
soft top.
pre North Star V8, right? So
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think
I think
so.
so. But I mean, there's
I
room in the trunk for golf clubs because it's a Cadillac. So that
and
means
you're
there's
such an
room
avid
enough.
golfer.
So I'm such an avid golfer. That means there's plenty of room when I drive this to the Dexter Cider Mill for cider and donuts after completing
Yeah,
my
buddy.
color tour in Southeast Michigan. That's right. Tires are good. The top is like new, and it's one of the reasons I went ahead and decided to jump in on this because I thought, well, 1989. If it's an original car with the original top, what condition is that top going to be? They're saying it's like new. One of the other criteria I was thinking about when we were doing this was okay, $4,000, something that you could enjoy, that's still comfortable, that you can see the outside, but also something that you don't necessarily want to think, okay, is this going to break on me on the next turn?
Yep. Can you
So
make those images full screen just so the folks can see them? Because right now we're seeing a lot of that boy.
sorry about that.
No. You're
Um,
fine. I was just saying. I just wanted
I
to get
mean,
a better look at it myself.
yeah, I mean, surprise! It's a Cadillac with chrome wheels. Just one of those weird kind of odd cars. If
Yeah.
I remember it,
Famously, what they made part of it in Michigan, and then they would ship them to Italy for another part of them, and then they would ship them back to Michigan for final assembly. Like they, as I remember they lost a ton of money on these cars just because of how much work went into each of them. Because this had a Pininfarina body, so you could say you could
That's
drive up
right.
next to a Ferrari guy and be like,
Hey,
same guy made the body as your
we're
Ferrari.
bros. We got the same. We got the same Italian body. Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
I would just get the weirdest looks. I have no idea if that's accurate. I don't know very much about the Elante at all, other than it was weird. It was a V8 with front wheel drive, and it looks like it would be a pretty fun little color tour car. Would I want to keep it for long after the color tour? I don't know.
I like to group it. Shift. No, they flew. They were air freighted. That was madness. Fair enough. So my second one, I am going to be fully honest here. This car might be a scam. It might be,
Uh-oh.
but it is within our price range.
Is it a Jag?
It's no, it's
Is it a
American.
Saab? Oh, it's
No,
okay.
it's American.
Okay. I'm impressed.
So here we go. This is a 1952
What?
Buick Special straight eight for $3,899.
What are you doing?
And according to the seller, it runs and drives. Now, the
I mean,
exterior is like rat rod worthy, but the interior looks shockingly good.
but hold on. Let's back up. It runs and drives. I could say that about a lot of cars that aren't going to drive anywhere per se.
Smith, I told you, I am not 100,000% sure that this listing is entirely on the up and up, but if it is, it fulfills all of our criteria. And
It
how
does.
cool would you feel? You're a married guy, having your wife in this, your arm around her, cruising down the road, looking at the leaves in a
I would have.
straight eight Buick from 1952. Wouldn't you
I would
feel like
need.
the coolest guy in the world?
No, I would need to have two hands on the steering wheel because you know how far you'd have to turn that thing to just get the front wheels to do anything.
Oh yeah, it's a boat. Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
I mean, bravo for having the guts to drive it anywhere.
I think
Now, mind
this
you, I'm
is
a Buick fan, mind you. I love this. I would just be worried. It goes back to my criteria of okay, am I going to enjoy the color tour or am I going to be like, at this point in the journey, who can I call for help?
you're not wrong. But imagine if everything goes right. We're not gonna be pessimists here. We're gonna be optimists here. You show up, you turn the key, that straight eight comes to life. You've got your wife next to you. Scarlett, your cat, is in the back. You got the windows down. You're looking at the changing leaves. It would be the most romantic thing in the entire world. Or it would be absolute hell because it would break down in 10 miles. I don't know which is the accurate thing.
Bruce, I've been sick the last couple days. I mean, I don't know. I where do you see romantic in that?
Oh, come on now.
A rusty four-door Buick from the 50s. I love Buicks. If it looked a little bit nicer.
Dude, this thing is no, we're going to disagree. This thing is the epitome of romance for $4,000. For $4,000, this is the most romantic car you could buy.
You got our boss's approval, but I'm going to disagree with both of you here. I'm going to disagree with both of you here shortly. Now, before
look at that. We always talk about, passenger side screens these days. Look, there's a passenger side screen. Yeah, it's just showing the time, but that's a screen, damn it.
Yeah, that's showing you just how long you have to endure this color tour.
That's showing you how soon I'm going to be divorced.
If it works, which I mean, let's be honest, the car runs and drives. So presumably the clock runs and drives, right? Maybe not.
Again, I understand. I don't even know how legit of a listing that is, but I saw it and I fell in love. And I
It's a
think
it's a brave pick. I'll be honest. I was very close to jumping into like some mid 60s, some late 60s. I found a really cool Lincoln Mark 7 that just looked a little too sketchy. I was really close to picking it. Um, Bravo to you though, Bruce. Bravo for having the guts to make the brave pick there.
all right,
Um,
it's your turn. Here's your. I
okay.
showed my two. Now you get last word.
Well, this is going to be by far the most romantic for me,
Okay.
and I need to
So you've got a
explain.
tourist show,
No, I need to explain just a reason why
Mercury Sable Wagon.
because one, a lot of people trash on these cars now, and
Is it a Mustang too?
they kind of trashed on them back in the day.
It's a
And
Mustang.
I think these are still very attractive cars. They're not sporty. They were never designed to be sporty, and I think a lot of people thought they were. But when my wife and I got married, we actually did our little just married cruise in one of these, and you can buy them really cheap in really good shape, and they're a nice cruising car that I think look good.
Smith, everything you're telling me is telling Mustang too. What is it? Oh, Chrysler Sebring. Okay,
It's a
yeah,
2000 Chrysler Sebring JXI convertible.
yeah. Okay,
It's the top trim JXI. It's the first generation of the car. The facelift after this, they had that just kind of big, goofy looking front end. This
yeah.
still has the more proportional front end with a nice grille.
No,
The
this
headlights
is a
need a
very
little
good pick.
refinishing
This is
on
a
this.
totally fair pick. This would be a great car to, just drive during the fall. Again, it's what we were talking about at the beginning. This is not a sporty vehicle whatsoever, but it's going to be comfortable. It's going, you're going to, with the top down, you're going to be able to look around and enjoy the leaves. Yeah, you
And
got me on this.
I mean the description. It's the 2.5 V6, great tires, newer battery underneath, in excellent shape, electric top. I mean the description sounds like it was pretty well taken care of. New rear struts just installed, garage kept. So I mean it's from the description, it sounds like it could be something you jump in, you go, and you don't
Look through
necessarily have
Bounty.
to enjoy
I wish
everything.
it was a Mustang too.
I would not dream of taking a Mustang too. I actually Mustang wasn't even on my list. Taurus wasn't
Okay,
even on my list. Because you want to enjoy looking outside, right? I already have a Mustang convertible that if I want to go do in
that's
fact,
true.
when we do our color tour here in a few weeks, we'll probably take that. Um, but she, and by she I mean my wife, doesn't really what's the word? She hates the Mustang. I'll just
Right. She says it's too loud,
she hates
right?
it. It's too loud. It's too uncomfortable, and I mean she's not wrong. I enjoy it in spades these days.
Yeah.
This would not be uncomfortable. This would
No.
not be too loud.
Nope.
And it's actually fairly sizable for a two-door convertible. There's a
Yep.
fair amount of space in the back if you stop off and you pick up some little donuts or you stop at the pumpkin patch.
Dude, I swear you were gonna say a hitchhiker. There was something in my mind. I swore you were gonna say a hitchhiker. So thank God you said donuts.
But I do have room for the guy in the Buick that breaks down while he's on his color tour.
Yeah, me and my wife.
Room,
We got room in the back. So I'll call
room
you
in the
up.
back.
My
So I'll be
Buick broke
following you
down.
along. No, I mean I don't have. I mean this isn't a glamorous car for a lot of people, but I have
No.
fond memories of it. I think it deserves more appreciation than it gets these
Mhm.
days. And who knows? Maybe in 5 or 10 years, as that age demographic that I talked about earlier kind of
Yep.
moves along, they'll look back on this and say, "Oh, that thing didn't look too bad." I mean, the transmission was terrible, and the engine may have had little issues
Was
every
not
now
great
and
either.
again. Um, but hey, you know what? Over time, you fix those things and you just enjoy it for what it is. Right?
Our boss asked if you have a valid AARP card to buy that car. Uh,
Oh, okay. So 10 years ago when I was rally crossing a Buick Roadmaster, that was not AARP territory, but the
that's right.
Sebring is. Okay, I got you.
But yeah, I think that's gonna be our show tonight. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
Nope. I mean, one thing I would like to request, all the ramblers out there listening, color tours are coming up. Share us some photos. Email us
Oh, that would be fantastic.
podcast@motor1.com.
Yeah. For anyone, group of FBC, I know you're in Australia. I don't know, and this is my own ignorance. I don't obviously seasons get mixed from North Hemisphere, South Hemisphere. But yeah, I'd love to see some pictures. But anyone in the United States or even in Europe or something like that, I'd love to see your, pose your car in front of a tree that's changing colors. I would love that. And we'll
That's
definitely put them on the show.
I would love to have a small segment, maybe in a few weeks, because we're just now starting to dip our toes into the color tour season.
Yep.
Go about 50 miles north of me. It's just starting to pick up. Peak should be in a couple weeks. So
Yep.
we have the time frame right now. Podcast or motor1.com. Take some photos. Show us your color tours. Show us your colors. Show us your cars with colors. We would love to have a small segment on that. And of course, for everything that we've talked about here today,
Smith, that's a fantastic. Yeah, please send us your pictures.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they don't have take a picture with your iPhone. I don't care. Take a picture with your a potato. Just, I would love to see our listeners, their car, and a beautiful red, orange, yellow tree. That would be fantastic. So yeah, please do that.
Bonus points if you have a 1950s Buick that is broke down somewhere. If you send us a photo of that, podcast@motor1.com, I will find some way to send you one of these 200 model kits that's here in my house. There's
so
the
if you spend
$4,000
on the car, you, sir, can have yourself a model kit. It's a great bargain.
You could have this fantastic 1993 Ford Ranger with the STX striping expertly applied. Look at that. I know, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's very
pretty
nice.
good. And everything that we've talked about here tonight, motor1.com. We've got our stories up here for the Ranger Hybrid, Nissan Frontier Hardbody, the Volkswagen Tiguan, the awesome $150,000 Mini. Everything we talked about, we enjoyed talking about it and sharing it all with you.
Totally. Yeah. And as always, we just love that you guys spend the time with us. It's, again, I say this every week, but it's true. Like, there are 1,000,001 things any one of you could be doing. And the fact that you decide to dedicate the time and spend it with us every week makes me feel really special. It really does. It makes me feel so good. So thank you so much for doing that. And as always, good morning to group of FBC, and good afternoon or good evening or good night, wherever you live. We appreciate you. We love that you comment. We love doing this show, and we will be back next week and can't wait to talk to you. So talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.